They got the on off in the back,
Yes, sir.
all the same now,
Mm-hmm.
bottom button?
Except for the pink ones. There you go.
Test, test, test. Are you out there in computer land?
This is Administrator Langrick. I can hear you out here in computer land.
Copy that. We're ready to call the November Richland County Public Works Standing Committee to order. First item of business is proof of notification, Mr. No, we'll go with you.
Okay, yes.
Been properly noticed. Agenda approval, we have a 13-point with a request to move number 11 up. Is Mr. Jeff in here yet? Or is he online?
Mm-mm.
Maybe he's,
I can mess.
well, we'll see if he's there, but anyway.
I'll move to approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
Cosgrove and McGee, Richard, approval, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign, nobody opposes. All right. Previous meeting minutes. Did everybody get a copy of them or read through them? I would make a motion to approve the minutes as posted. Mr. Cosgrove is going to second that. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Number 5, we'll jump on that quick. Public comments while we wait for Mr. Jeff. No public in the room, correct?
He's on his way down.
All right, Mr. Jeff is on his way. We will move to number 11 as Jeff is on his way. So that is the discussion and possible action on a tax deed property. That is the old motel. If Mr. Jeff comes in. If you remember, we had the gentleman come in last month with some ideas for the property. Jeff will give us some update on information that we found out after the fact when he gets here. There he is. Oh, you missed roll call. All right, Jeff. You've heard everything I've said, so whatever you can discuss and give us for information would be great.
Sure, I caught the tail end of it. In regards to possibilities of redeveloping the property, I spoke with Attorney Wendell as well as Administrator Langrick and yourself about setting conditions and concerns that we had based upon just some outlining circumstances. I had Attorney Wendell put in some wording. He did draft kind of a requirements for bids for acceptable parties to bid on the property, one of which is if they own other real estate within the county that they have no delinquent taxes on those other parcels. And I'll leave it at that.
If you have your iPad, it is in there.
And I don't know if Attorney Wendell wants to speak in on this. Otherwise, that's really the only new information I have on this. I think we're just kind of at the point for the committee to decide how we want to move forward with this property.
Mr. Carroll, you have yours in Richard, or would you guys? There's only 5 bullet points, and if you don't mind, Josh got a comment? Yeah, Josh can actually put it on the, Josh said he can put it up on the board. Forgot about our new technology. Knock on wood. Sure.
All right, so bid requirements. By submitting a bid on this property, the bidder acknowledges their understanding of and guarantees they meet the following conditions. They are current on all property taxes on other property owned in Richland County. They have diligently inspected available records on the property. It's condition and relevant laws and or ordinance governing its use. They have a plan to bring the property up to current code, whether by demolishment, restoration of current property, and other means that they will present at the plan to the Public Works Committee for its approval prior to the committee accepting the bid, and that they have the resources available to finalize the plan within time period of the committee's acceptance of the bid. That if circumstances warrant, the time to complete the plan may be extended at the sole discretion of the committee. That the above terms will be incorporated into the contract of sale for the property and shall therefore become binding on the bidder.
Anybody with questions as to what Mr. Wendell had drew up for possible bid requirements?
I'm also here in case that wasn't immediately apparent.
No more than a year, is that what you said, Attorney Wendell?
I said I'm also here.
Okay.
You ever said 2 years?
What?
Is that what he just said, 2 years or 1?
No, he just stated he's here. He did not state a time frame.
Which we could set ourselves.
Is this any better?
That is a little better, Mike.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I was just noting that I am here. I know that there was some discussion about 2 years. I figured that was something I could defer to the committee on in terms of the timeline they wanted to allow a potential bidder.
Anybody with questions? Or comments? Mr. Carroll? Please, any comment?
I've got nothing this time.
Thing in reference to the sewer down there, the sewer problem.
Part of that where it says that they have a plan to bring the property up to current code.
Also, the second bullet point, the diligently inspected available records on the property, its condition, and all relevant laws and ordinances governing its use. That's basically to ensure that people are aware or should be aware that there may be some restrictions on the ability to build on the property, the sewer issue that was raised, basically that they've done their due diligence, that they understand that this is not a turnkey property, and that the plan that they're going to develop is based on the conditions on the ground.
Yeah, I'm good with it, gentlemen.
When's the bid process gonna take place?
That's the next step. This is just the bid requirements that we would put in place. I guess, Attorney Wendell, the next step would be for us is to accept these and then at next month's meeting, probably try and set a bid timeline maybe, or do we still need to come up? This would also be for Jeff. Do we still need to come up with a minimum bid?
You would
The
need to set your.
committee- Go ahead, Jeff.
Mike. You would still need to set a minimum appraisal value for the sealed bid for the baseline. So regardless, this committee needs to set an appraisal value for the property for your minimum bid amount.
And Attorney Wendell?
I was going to say the same thing. It could be as little as the cost associated with paying the back taxes and cost of collecting it, or the county could attempt to make some profit off of this or make some money off of this. That's at the discretion of the committee. It could also simply be for the cost of bringing the property back to a taxable condition. But that's a decision that the committee has to make.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I do have a question. Let's say that we find a bidder that meets all the requirements, we sell the property, and then they don't follow through with their plan. What's our recourse?
So that would be the last bullet point in the bidding requirements. The contract for sale of the property. Normally, we tend to quitclaim deed these, I believe, or at least the ones that I've done in my tenure have been via quitclaim deed. For this particular property, given the requirements, I would draft a contract of sale to be incorporated in with it. And it would be the same as any other contract. If they fail to uphold the terms of the contract, then they either, if they're running out of time, they either need to come to the committee and request more time, which is also allowed under the requirements I've drafted here, or they are in default of contract, and we sue for either specific performance, so make them do what they said they were going to do. We sue them for the cost of what it costs us to restore the property. There are a number of different avenues that we could pursue.
And I remember, I think, Jeff, you told us about a law change that if we were to make above and beyond due taxes, is that correct? We would not be eligible for that. The county would not be eligible for that money. Is that?
No, we have 5 years to turn the money over to the former owner, above and beyond our expenses incurred. So that would include back taxes, interest, expenses incurred in taking the property and selling the property. I don't foresee that being an issue here, but yeah, the ability for us to make a profit is pretty well null and void at this point.
Yeah, the only thing that I would be afraid of is some of the last comments that Attorney Windle made, that if we get a person that bids on it and then they have nothing to go after, if they don't do anything with it, I guess we still have the property, but I can't foresee us suing somebody that has nothing to go after.
Well, and that's covered in the third bullet point in their presentation. They have to demonstrate they have the resources available to finalize that plan. So it kind of, I would think it'd be up to the person bidding to prove that it's more than just lip service, that they can follow through with this, that they do have the means and the abilities to complete that.
What about, Attorney Windle, some type of bond?
I mean, it would be at the committee's discretion. It could be they could whip out their cell phone and show us their current account balance, as long as it's, I don't know, 3 or 4 commas. But, that would be incorporated into the plan that they would need to present to the committee, is they would need to show some kind of proof that they are able to enact the plan that they're presenting, whether that be, proof of ownership of a company relevant to, restoring it, or simply assets. Some secured financing maybe would be another alternative. Similar to if you were buying a house, you have to prove that you can afford the house, sign a mortgage or something along those lines.
Thank you. Anybody else have questions towards this? I don't know if it can be brought up without, I don't know if it's truly on the agenda as far as other possible uses for the property. That'd be a question for you, Attorney Windle.
I apologize. The rain
No.
started and I couldn't hear you.
A discussion on other possible uses for the property, can that be discussed with the way this was presented on the agenda?
Yes. It's action on the assessed tax deed. Deciding that the county can make better use of it than selling it is worth discussing.
I know one of the other supervisors were going to, if they had time, take a look at, see if there would be any benefit for possibly a canoe launch and or kayak launch. I still have the map with me. It would be stretching it a ways, but I would be in favor of researching that a little bit more now that the frost has come and the weeds will reside a little bit. But whatever the committee would like is fine with me as well. I had some rough estimates that time Mr. Elder and I and Gary Manning went out there, and on the high side, we were pushing what, 100,000? Josh?
Yeah, when we looked at it, figuring how many dump trucks and the kind of equipment you need to take it down, we figured pushing over to $100,000 to $150,000 to clear that property.
Is that a new landing?
Worth 100. Probably not, no, but,
I guess the only thing that I'm worried about is someone coming up and being able to prove that they can do all this. I mean, unless you got awful deep pockets. I mean, if we're thinking it's gonna cost $100,000 to do it, and that's probably on the cheap, I would
That's on the
think,
cheap side.
you know.
That's hiring it. That would be contracting it out, correct?
Correct.
Whereas if somebody owned their own company, there would be lesser expense incurred.
and during off seasons, not peak season for,
Understood,
Yep.
but
Right.
there's still a value there. There's $20,000 or there's $10,000 or some, there's a number, right?
Yeah.
agreed.
And in my eyes too, it's partly being good neighbors with our township and the residents around it and just taking care of a blighted property that's been an issue for years now.
I guess that's where I kind of lean. I would rather went down the path and say, okay, we're gonna clear this out. We're gonna make this into a parcel that we could sell so someone could build on and not leave them with this burden. Because this burden's not gonna sell, is my opinion. And I don't know what that costs to do that, but I think we ought to look at that and see, I mean, how much money are we in for now?
We wrote off around $40,000 in taxes on it. I will say there's a county to the northeast of us that used to do this kind of same approach where they would take the blighted properties, clean them up themselves and try to sell after the fact. And a couple of years ago, they switched to kind of what we were exploring here of sell it, you have to clean it up, and they've actually had some pretty good success of people buying these properties. Granted, they take a hit on the front end, but the county isn't paying for the civil work to get it up to snuff, I guess.
Mr. Cosgrove, comments? Mr. McGuire? Otherwise, I'm thinking we put it on for next month or can we set a dollar amount? Are you guys ready to try and set a dollar amount today, or you want to put it on for December?
Dollar amount or a condition spec? His performance on this piece of property.
I think the dollar amount would be the minimum bid
Right.
that we'd want to set.
Sounds like 40,000.
So if you're okay with setting that,
We set it at whatever that's what starting bid, and then go. I'll second it.
motion and seconded, further discussion, did everybody understand? Basically, we're setting the minimum bid for what we have written off for back taxes.
Should be given a timeline.
That's the next step then. That's the next step, but we have to set a minimum bid. That's our job as a committee. We have to set a minimum bid. Not
No,
to exceed any-
there's no requirement on what they have to spend to do what they want to do. It's just the minimum bid to bid on it. I will say that, I mean, we're in it for $40,000, but I think we're gonna be hard pressed to find somebody that will bid $40,000 on a building that they either have to tear down or stick God knows how much in to make it, a viable building. I myself, I mean, the county has already took the hit. We wrote it off. I think just get what we can get out of it and get the property taken care of. So I think $40,000 is not a realistic bid to expect somebody to come in and take care of it. If we were taking care of the building ourselves, I think that'd be a different story, but
What's its zone? Commercial?
yes.
That's where I differ on that. If it was residential, I don't disagree with you, but when it's zoned commercial, you're in a different place. I mean, that's 40 grand
Yeah.
is nothing for someone who is gonna come in there and put something there that's gonna sell something.
A significant portion of that is floodplain though as well. I mean,
True, you may
there's-
not be able to build on it, but what can you park there? If I put a car lot there, the driveway, they don't care, right? I mean, I'm just,
As an example.
it's an example, and I'm not,
Right.
I get where you're coming from. But on the same token, it's commercial property versus residential property or farm property or something like that, and it has a different value.
Right. I guess my viewpoint is if we can get it cleaned up, then we're looking at future tax dollars on that we're working towards. And I kind of consider the ones that we've lost just gone with the wind at this point. Like I said, we already wrote it off the books, but if we can get something out of it, that'd be great. But I don't know. I'm looking towards let's get it back on the tax roll as a decent property. And if we have to take a hit right now, I'd rather see that.
Could I ask the question of what the land would be valued at right now as a commercial property with that existing building on there? Has there been an assessment done of that?
I'd have to look. Would that be in the packet? I put a property summary, but the land would be assessed out separately from what the buildings are. Hasn't been assessed for a while because the buildings still have a assessment of like $200,000. So I don't know that that's completely up to date. But the land would have its own assessed value. You'd have to look at probably last month's committee folder. Number 15.
I have two people interested besides the gentleman you brought in.
We put a bidding process of minimum 40,000, I don't think you'll.
Oh, stop there, Josh. Go back up. Back up, Josh, a little bit. Oh. So right under 2022 summary, there's valuations. 1 acre is residential, 2.6 is commercial. The land is given a value of approximately $50,000.
All we can do is try it. If we get no bids, then you have to,
Then we come back, if nobody bids on it, then we just come back lower.
that's what we've done.
Shoot for the fences and then come back up.
That's what we did on the property committee.
I think, make sure that when we say this is a commercial property and the starting bid is what? Meet in the middle, 25,000. But we need to put something.
Right. I'll keep moving. Richard, you okay with 25? Amend your. Okay. Amend your motion to 25,000 as the minimum bid. Mark will second that. Further discussion? All those in favor of setting the minimum bid to $25,000 for the commercial property, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Nay? All right, that much is set. Now we need to set a timeline yet? For the bid requirements, time period, so. We have to advertise this 3 weeks, Jeff?
That's a question for Derek. The clerk's
Okay.
office advertises, but I don't. Mike, do you know off the top of your head? Is it the class 3 or class 2?
I think it's at least it's a class 3 notice. And given the need to present to the committee, I would probably allow for additional time.
So we could advertise and probably shoot for January, is that what we're thinking? Do you think we'd have it done in time to bring it back in December?
So are you planning to bring this back in December to finalize everything and then advertise? Because then that would probably,
If we set a timeline, we are final, correct? Or what am I? Oh, yes. The contract. The contract would come. Attorney Wendell, when would the contract come into effect? We need to have that drafted prior or once the high bidder has been awarded?
Once the bidder has been awarded is when I anticipate the contract coming into play, because it would be the contract for the actual sale. The bid just figures out who we are selling it to.
So am I correct at saying the only other thing we need to do prior to advertising this is set a time period? Does that time period need to be in the advertisement, or can we put that in the contract? Probably better put it in the advertisement.
Yes, that would be my advice.
Well, there's some of them, so in that advertisement, the contract language to some degree has to be in there, because I'm not gonna bid on it and then all of a sudden get hit. Okay, so I was awarded the bid, and now you hit me with the contract. Well, I didn't sign up for a contract. I signed up for a bid. Right?
Well, all of the requirements that I showed here would be incorporated in the presentation soliciting bids.
Okay.
So that's the very first paragraph is before someone even submits a bid, they should be aware of and agree to all of these conditions.
Perfect.
It's actually kind of a contract in and of itself. The acknowledges their understanding of and guarantees they meet the following conditions. So in exchange for us accepting their bid, they have essentially obligated themselves to the terms of this. The contract would just formalize that and incorporate the actual sale of the property.
Do you have any suggestions on a timeline, Attorney Wendell? Time period, I guess, is the wording.
Again, just I don't know that even in 3 weeks of notice is going to cut. Well, I mean, we do the notice as the notice, but I frankly don't have the business development background to understand what it might take to put a proposal together.
All right, maybe I'm understanding this now that I've reread it again. The time period would be the amount of time they have to get a plan to us.
No, the time period contemplated here is when you present to the committee, you are saying that you will have this building up to code by X time. So 2 years was the original discussion, whether or not the committee wants to choose a different time. And then the subsequent paragraph is what allows the committee to extend that deadline even once the contract is signed, so that allows a little bit of leeway to the bidder or contractor. But that also sets a hard deadline. A bidder can't come in and say, I've got my proof of funds, here's the plan for getting it developed, and then just say, I'll get it done when I get it done.
Okay, that's what I thought originally, but do we need to have they need to get the business proposal to us within the 3 weeks? Do I understand that portion correctly?
That again is a decision that the committee can make. They can set the terms of the bid, the bid solicitation as they wish. We just have to, the only legal obligations are how often we have to publish it. Which, and again, my recommendation is to allow for some additional time given the need to develop the plan that's contemplated.
so we could run it for 3 weeks in the Observer, which I believe is still our ordinance, and advertise it on our website for however long and set a deadline for bids to be turned in. So it doesn't have to be turned in those 3 weeks. It just has to be advertised for 3 weeks with that deadline advertised
bids
and that
in
notice.
You probably almost need to say whatever we're calling it there. Are we calling it a business plan? Is that what it,
Business plan, development plan,
Site proposal.
redevelopment plan.
okay.
Real estate management plan.
We, probably the sale, when we get the, we don't have to take the bids, this portion to them. But once they would have to accept the bid,
I believe the bid is accepted by finance and personnel.
probably, right? Yep. Done on well, the other two properties we end up getting back, the one down by me, just because of the 60 days, so. All right, what do you guys want to do? Time period. Richard McKee suggesting 2 years.
I'll second.
Mr. Mark Cooey seconds that. Any further discussion on time period? If not, all those in favor of setting a 2-year time period for the completion of the revitalization of the property, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay? All right, we've got a timeline. What about, do we still need to probably need to set a time advertisement when, if we're gonna have them do a real estate management plan or whatever revitalization plan, what are we at? We're at November 10th. We're gonna advertise for 3 weeks. It'll take us into the first part of December, right? Yep. January, we could have them due by our meeting in January, whatever date that is, Jeff will, or do we need to put that? Yeah, we better put it in the minutes. January,
I prefer you would set a date and tell me what it is.
January 12th.
Or Derek.
Richland County Public Works Standing Committee at 4 p.m. So bids will be due January 12th, 2023. I will make that motion. All those in favor of setting the.
Question.
Yep, sir.
That's when bids are due, but then when do we have to make our decision?
Probably that day.
So whoever's gonna come up with a plan, they have to have their plan as well, not just the bid, but their plan, because we can't assess their bid unless we see their plan.
Yeah. So
I'm just saying, we do want to look at it.
Bids will be due that day. With the idea that we would probably, if we get any bids.
So the bidder is, if these are the terms that we move forward with, the bidder is allowed to submit the bid, and by submitting the bid, they guarantee that they have a plan. But if the committee would like to set a different date for actually hearing those plans, the plan itself does not necessarily need to come in with the bid.
Understood.
Why do we care what the plan is? If I submit the bid and I say that I'm saying I have a plan, and you got 2 years to get it figured out, and you don't get it figured out, then this is what happens.
The contract is null and void, and
Well, it's in the next level of the contract steps in.
Well, I think it's important to have the plan and review it for the third bullet point, that they demonstrate they have the ability to meet that plan. As I said, it's easy to walk in and say, I'm gonna do this, but unless you can demonstrate that you have the means and capabilities, those are two different.
What if there were two bidders, and if we're just solely gonna go by low bid, then the plan doesn't matter. But if the plan is really that important, we do need to compare and make sure that the whole offering is the best. So that's what I'm saying. It would take a little time to assess, I think.
And the committee, per statute, the committee has the flexibility to choose what they feel is in the best interest of the county. So if you come across one that you think is going to better serve the county than another one, you have that right to make that determination.
Right.
Sorry for
I'm just,
interrupting,
I'm
Mike.
just saying that, if we feel like we can make that assessment during our meeting, fine. But if it's something that needs a little more,
And that doesn't mean we can't. We can put it off to the next month. We could either table it or correct wording is to, we get flooded with bids and Steve's gonna take them home and research them for us, so.
Not expecting engineer. I do not expecting engineer.
All right, good point though, Steve. Everybody else comfortable with that? Did we vote on that? Oh,
we did.
the bids are due on January 12th, 2023, which is our next meeting date, so. And within the bid, they have to meet the requirements of the bid requirements that we've already agreed to. So, any further discussion on that? If not, all those in favor of having the bids due on January 12th, 2023 at 4 PM, the start of our meeting, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Nay? Okay. Are you good, Mr. Wendell?
I have no further comment.
All right. Anybody else? Otherwise, Mr. Jeff, you are excused, I believe. Anything else that you need to cover on here? Okay. Let's go up. Clint, are you still awake?
What's that? I was
Are you
sleeping.
still awake?
No, my feet just fell off my table here. How are we at my turn? My turn?
Yep, your turn, number 6.
All right. Can I grab the steering wheel from you here, Josh, maybe?
Property management report, number 6.
Can you can see me there at the mothership?
Yep.
The report. Okay. We'll wheel through this for the sake of brevity. Courthouse key and security project status. Notes are put in here that by building policy, we're supposed to have our first inventory completed by April 15th, 2023. We laughed last year around April when we approved the policy, but that's quickly creeping upon us now, so it's something we're going to start focusing on. Status on the DOJ grant application for the second round, the status and timeline. So we did have extended out through the end of this calendar year. You can see on here the beginning balance of this grant was $150,000. We've expended to this point $117,000 with the remaining of $32,000. We have about $39,000 left in project with the expectations that if we do go over, I believe Sheriff's Office is picking up a little bit of the overage then for the Apex Office Trainer Simulator out of one of their budget lines is the plan at hand. The window replacement and metal siding estimates, as well as the signature updates, I would defer to Administrative Assistant Dull if you're there, Cheryl.
I am here. We did the bid opening at the last meeting. I've contacted them and told them that they were picked for the bid. They measured up the window in the Register of Deeds office and will come back, measure all the windows. Several of them will be the same size and complete the project by March 1st of 2023.
Good to hear.
We did put in a 10% contingency just in case some frames are not in the greatest condition, which could very well happen over there. It's wood. They're all wood and old.
What else we have on there, sir?
I can keep going if you want me to. Signage. She started to work on the signage. First floor, I think, is all done. She's working on getting second floor prepped, and she's ordered the replacement sign that will go on third floor, and then we'll use those blanks that are by the elevator on third floor for the rest of the floors. And she was supposed to come try and get some more done this week. We haven't seen her, but I'm sure she'll be back to finish them up shortly. Land and zoning move, the offices were painted down there. Land conservation, when I talked to them today, have 2 file cabinets left to move. Otherwise, they are all down there. Zoning has started to move some stuff, but I believe the director, Mike Bendel, is off for the rest of the week and will continue more moves next week. Once the ambulance is out of the lounge, then we'll get that painted and get that set up for the conference room 1.
And Mr. Chair, I can talk on, so the Pine Valley Farm lease and land swap, that project is currently kind of still on hold yet with, so we're not impacting the different studies that were done on Highway O. We did find some additional information that we're exploring in regards to some grant opportunities for trails, as part of the vision potentially in the future is to have a trail accessibility from Pine Valley down to what is considered a future opportunity for the kayak landing and park. So we're taking a look at that. UW Campus Coppertop, I do have some estimates back from Russ with Strategic Engineering Group, working with Assistant Provost Mike Compton and Chair Gentis from the Education Standing Committee on putting together a recommendation on how to approach the roof. It came back higher as our costs are continuing to climb up. Looking potentially to focus the efforts on the fire damper section of the main flat section and possibly not trying to address all the roofs, as I think to try to do all the flat spots came in at over 200,000, and even doing the main flat section looked like, again, an estimate was about 150,000 with another 10,000 for the dampers. So we're going to take a look at that and possibly discuss it on Monday. Conversation, though, I might be taken directly from that committee right to finance and personnel in charge of the capital projects planning. If you're comfortable with that, I'm not sure what types of authorities and actions you'd be taking from this body. And that's my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair, I do have one other one. The metal siding, I think he kind of zoomed by it where I didn't see it. Interstate Roofing has bid where the metal siding is bad outside. The bid come in at $17,250, a little higher than we anticipated, but they were hoping to get it done this week. They have the metal bent, and if they don't get it done this week, they'll be hopefully here next week to get all that metal siding replaced.
So, Mr. Chair, if Supervisor Randy Nelson is there too, I would certainly defer to any other things that he would want to comment on those items or other things to bring you up to speed on with the building.
He's not here.
Thank you.
Thank you both for the updates. Anybody with questions to send towards either Cheryl or Clint?
Mr. Chair, can you hear me? This is Randy.
Hey,
just the update. Just one other update on the buildings. I've been going through and replacing a lot of light fixtures, or not the actual fixtures themselves, but switching everything over to LED. The jail has been that level has been completely switched over to LED. The lobbies are being switched right now. All the lobbies will be switched to LEDs. And then I'll be working on the courtroom floor, second floor, and the old part of the building, switching all that over too. So most of the building will be switched to LEDs probably within the next couple months.
I believe. Is that what you're doing, Randy? The question was brought up. Are you just bypassing the ballast?
Yes, all ballasts are being pulled out and they're being bypassed.
Okay. We did a lot of those at work as well. Good to hear. Thank you. Anybody with questions for Mr. Nelson? I think we're good. We can move to Mr. Elder. MIS, are they still here? Oh, yeah. Number 7, lucky 7.
It's gonna cost you 10 now.
What do you got for us?
Well, I have an update. We found out yesterday that we had to make an allotment on our servers to the Sheriff's Department of 5 terabytes for their new wearable video. To do that took a lot of server space, and now HHS is running out of server space, as are other departments. We have to add another storage device to our server. It's going to be $38,000. So we're going to, this isn't here for approval. This is because I didn't have time to get it onto the agenda prior to the meeting. This is information. You'll see the approval needed next month when I have the bids. I'll get the required bids. My question to you is, we generally work with JCOM. They've done all of the other EMC work for our storage. And Mr. Wendell, if you're still available, do I need to quote this out to 3 vendors because of the size of the project?
Say that again.
We're anticipating the project to be about, it's $38,000 roughly for equipment. Do I need, and we have worked with, it's going to be an add-on to our current server system. Am I going to need to quote that out to other vendors?
Can we discuss that in private at a later time?
Yes.
Okay, I think that would be best.
Thank you.
Yep.
But you,
basically like 20. It's the EMC is where all the storage is because we have 3 separate servers that are hosts that we're able to migrate between on the storage, and the 20 was essentially enough, but it's going to be an ongoing thing. We just every time we add some other thing for a different department, it's requiring their own server, their own storage, and so when the wearable video thing, I wanted that to be cloud-based. Sheriff's Department didn't have money, so then now it becomes MIS's problem to kind of find that. So that 5 terabytes was a quarter of the storage that we have for 19 other departments. So now this is where we're running into an issue right away because we need to expand out other servers for space, and it's becoming an issue.
so that's my happy report. It's more than $5. Otherwise, we're very busy. We had hired a replacement for our IT assistant, and the day before he was supposed to start, he messaged me and he got a full-time position, so the half-time wasn't as, and I understand. I don't hold that against him at all. So I just re-advertised today and hopefully we'll find someone. Other than that, I don't have a lot to report.
Anybody with questions for MIS and Barb? Mr. Carroll?
The storage issue, I was wondering if we could get something explaining that just written down so I can
Sure.
understand it better.
I'll do a report and email to the
Okay.
committee if that's acceptable.
Yes.
So I take it we did not, I'm going to use some of Steve's words from previous years. We did not predict this to happen?
Not exactly.
Okay. I'm good with that. Anybody else? Otherwise, let's go to number 8, or you need to take a break. Highway Department. Mr. Josh Elder.
All right, we'll start with the monthly bills. A little lighter month yet again, and just going down through like some of the big ticket items, the Casper's truck equipment, the $117,422, that was for the brine maker, or most of it's for the brine maker. And again, that dollar amount there is 100% reimbursed from the state, so we'll get that back. MIG seal coating, 68 grand, again, for seal coating. The 42 grand for the hot mix asphalt, that's for the sand and salt shed. That was what we used to lay the whole floor in it. Lakeside truck, one of them was for a complete engine rebuild of unit number 12, and then some minor work on truck 45, which was just a reprogramming for a bad sensor, and then other miscellaneous, just kind of smaller stuff. And then the 16,000 at the bottom, well, one's for Vernon County Highway. That's for our painting of the county roads that we seal coated and paved this year. And then the other one's right to the Wisconsin Department of Transportation. That's for bridge work, smaller bridges and stuff that we have to pay them. But otherwise, pretty light month, only 521,000, so a lot better. Keep in mind, we have 3 trucks sitting at Monroe right now. 2 are really being hot and fast worked on. They're making extreme headway. We could see those 2 trucks by the end of by the end of this month, beginning of December. So then you're gonna see a pretty hefty monthly bill again, but we've anticipated that. We know it's coming. So we'll be okay, but just keep in mind, we got a big payment coming sooner than later. Mr. Chair.
Anybody with questions on the bills as presented?
Yep, Mr. Chair. Help me understand how the payroll bounces up so much up and down. I don't understand that. Great.
On the bigger payrolls, the health insurance is included. Second one is just dental, and that, which is the smaller premium. So with the bigger payroll, that has our health insurance included in it.
Okay, so it's more than wages and it's
Yes.
everything. Okay, got it.
Yes.
Thanks.
Anything else?
So
Mr. Cooey?
those two trucks are 2 years old. What we ordered 2 years ago.
Yes, those are trucks from
That we
2021.
were getting last.
Yeah, we were supposed to get
Christmas.
last Christmas, but Santa was
we're
running
just-
late.
So the money's been sitting there to pay for it.
Right.
It's just that we haven't got the trucks yet, just so everybody understand. I mean, I know
These aren't new expenditures. The money was set aside back in 2021, and now we're just getting trucks. So that money's been riding over from year to year to year, and now we'll be finally getting them.
Everybody's good?
I'm good.
I would entertain a motion to pay the bills as presented.
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Cooey?
I'll second that.
Mr. McKee seconds it. All those in favor of approving the bills as presented, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. All right, bills have been paid. Project update, 8B.
Again, we're winding up for the year on all major projects. So where we're currently at now is transitioning over to the winter time, getting winter readiness done. So we're out harvesting sand out of our sand pit. That's being hauled over to the shop. We'll be starting up our screening plant probably beginning to middle of next week and start processing. We still need to put up about 6,500 yards worth of material, but we got a pretty good dent in that right now. Going through sanders, releasing hydraulic hoses, getting through as many trucks as we can to get them up to par. And then any spare guys that we have are currently out mowing, trying to get the roadsides and stuff mowed back, especially with the obvious rut right now. So trying to make things as visible as possible. Mr. Chair.
Open house report, please.
Open house actually went better than expected. We probably had close to 20 people show up, probably half a dozen just plain Jane outsiders that had no idea about the highway department. So they actually had a nice tour, nice walkthrough. So all in all, it went pretty good. We were pretty happy with the turnout.
Thank you. Anybody else with questions for highway department? Otherwise, we're gonna go back to Clint at number 9. You're back, Mr. Clint, number 9.
Mr. Chair, I'm gonna grab the wheel from Josh here again, if you're okay with that.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so item coming to you from Rules and Strategic Planning. Now, they're working through an update on the ethics ordinance. They're kind of going line by line and reviewing each element of it. Element that came up at their last meeting included conversation on public property policy. And they discussed sample language from Crawford and Sauk County, which you'll see up here. It's all in columns like this because of it's kind of broken down into the multiple options. So I'll read down through it. So this is stating an official or employee shall not use or knowingly permit the use of county services or county-owned vehicles, equipment, materials for unauthorized non-governmental purposes or for unauthorized personal conveniences or for profit unless such services are available to the public generally and consistent with practices and policies of the county. So they wanted to kind of get feedback on how, if language like this was adopted as part of an ordinance or ordained as part of the ordinance, how that might impact services and those types of elements. The key standouts in this that kind of came with the discussion points is the unauthorized personal conveniences and language of unauthorized non-governmental purposes. That leaves some maneuverability, in my opinion, for administration to establish what is considered authorized. But then there's also further discussion that happened that meeting on, well, who's the authorization who's got the authority to authorize such things. And the other aspect that was kind of talked about too was the closing sentence there of unless such services or use are available to public generally and consistent with practices and policies. So there was kind of the talk then on vehicles that may be taken home and used for transportation to or from work and minimal personal conveniences on that transportation. Obviously we would not allow the same type of a privilege to a normal citizen to take the vehicles home like that, example squad or supervisor commissioner vehicles, that type of thing. So it's brought to you today to see if there's any types of discussions that you have, and then I would also defer to Commissioner Elder to be able to elaborate on practices and procedures for the department.
So I'll jump in right there. So we've always conducted ourselves very professionally. It's the same way we've been running for years. The employees at the highway shop with that county-owned equipment, I mean, it's a known fact. You're not going to take a dump truck home. You're not going to use a dump truck for personal use. Same thing with any piece of larger equipment. We have 3 vehicles that are allowed to be, we're actually 4 now, but we have 4 vehicles that are allowed to take home, and that'd be for the superintendent's positions and the commissioner's position. That is because we are on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we use those trucks immediately as soon as we start out our driveway, checking roads or responding to check out a circumstance that may be out on the road. If any other kind of questions have arose in the past, we've always just brought it right to, at the time, Highway Committee, and at this point, it would be to Public Works. If it was something that, as a department head, I couldn't answer on my own, I would not give that an individual an answer. I would bring it to this committee for a proper response, so it was duly noted. But typically, the only thing that the highway workers and our department have accessibility to is like if they need to use a chainsaw for a night or a leaf blower or a hammer. A small tool, yes, but any larger equipment, it's already kind of set in stone. We don't allow that. We don't have guys take trucks home during plowing events to start from their driveway plowing in the morning. It just creates too much problems. So I kind of feel at this point, with everything else the county's kind of going through and how we've conducted ourselves professionally in the past, going down this road of trying to develop another policy and 10,000 different avenues that we could go down to try to outline things in black and white. I don't know that this would be really needed, and it'd be trusting in your department head and with the committee that department head goes to make these kind of decisions. I just feel like there's other areas that we could focus on more as a county rather than going down these avenues. Again, this is my personal opinion, we have department heads, you can rely on us, and we're gonna see it through. And if we have questions that we can't answer, then we bring it to our committee. That's my opinion.
The 4 trucks or vehicles, they're not just transportation, they're like plow trucks with a blade on it?
No, they are transportation.
Just transportation?
Yep.
Yeah.
And we currently buy those as 3/4 ton or 1 ton trucks because they'll be transitioned down into the fleet to be able for the guys to use to pull skid steers and haul patch and things of that nature, but they're just pickups. That's
Okay.
all they are.
All right. Thank you.
My question would be, is it a problem, or did they give any reasoning why they want to add more policies?
Well, it's kind of the ethics ordinance right now only really applies to employees, I think is how it reads. And it's kind of a little bit, hasn't been touched up in the recent years. So they're going back through and cleaning it. And part of that effort then was to reach out and see what the neighbors are doing. And so this was the one example language that kind of touched on use of personal or of public property for personal uses. So that's kind of the driver on it, is to circle around and make sure that we have an ethics ordinance that is in place. There's been some types of catalyst events over the last 2.5 years here, which have also kind of called the question on, well, how do we handle this? It's not really addressed, not this particular part of it, but how do we handle these situations that we would typically look at for an ethics ordinance? And we've kind of found out that our ordinance right now is pretty lean. So those are the catalyst things. And then, but in looking at what other counties are doing, then it's kind of opened up the discussions on, do we want to have these pieces? And if we do want to have them, what do we want them to look like? Does that answer your question, Mr. Chair?
It does. Mr. McGuire.
Yeah, I think about a year ago or a year and a half ago, there was a situation with the use of a squad car by, I believe, a very young patrolman. I don't know a lot of the details, but this stirred a lot of controversy. So that may be what's guiding this here discussion.
Understood. Yeah, I'm not against it, but anybody else comments? Richard, Steve?
Yeah, Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I don't even know what our current ethics ordinance says. Has it been silent on this issue? And this is just a little bit of different wording, or is this a brand new topic?
To my knowledge, it's a brand new topic brought up by Rules and Strategic Planning Committee.
Okay. Is this wording general enough that it wouldn't really change how you do things, or?
I think if you were to try to adapt this wordage over, some of it's going to have to be gone into detail of outlining what you can do with particular piece of equipment and particular, whether it be computers, through MIS, whether it be trucks, small tools. I mean, pretty much everything's going to have to be outlined, because once you try to adapt over a policy like this, it just opens up a door to, well, you said it about this, but what about this? This is a gray area. It's going to take a heck of a lot of work to actually narrow it down. And again, it's never been a problem with our equipment. And if employees have stretched the use of that piece of equipment, it's been addressed by the department head, and it's stomped in, before it gets any farther. So, like I said, my personal opinion, my recommendation as the commissioner, as the department head is, the way you've been running is fine, and there's 100 other things the county could be doing right now versus a policy on the use of equipment.
It does sound like it was an issue somewhere that, and yeah, I
Sheriff's Department. It's quite simple, I guess, and can't do anything.
probably not completely informed.
Right. Yeah, and again, if any questions arise, I mean, as a department head, you got to know, like, if you can't answer that question, don't give an answer to somebody that could hang you out to dry, because we're protecting our jobs just as much, because we're liable. So if we can't answer the question, we'll go to the administrator. If he can't answer it, then we're going to come right to Public Works, and we're going to have it on public record that we talked about it, which we've already proven to do in the past when it was the highway committee over vehicles.
Yeah, just for an example, for the gentlemen that weren't on the original highway committee, it was brought probably a year ago about.
About a year ago.
Go ahead and explain it, Josh.
So about a year ago, when I took over as commissioner, I've got young kids, and so does our county superintendent. Well, a lot of times we need to drop our kids off at either school or daycare or pick them up after work. So for us, it was like, okay, if the county's insurance already covers passenger in the vehicle, could we have it allowed that as long as it's to and from on the way to work or within the vicinity of Richland Center, would we be allowed to pick up our kids or take them home with us versus us having to drive all the way home just to switch pickups to drive back to town? So, or if we needed to respond to a call, a tree down in the middle of the road or check on a slippery condition, we don't have to drive clear home to grab our county vehicle or switch out, so we brought that to the highway committee, we passed it, and we haven't had any issues with that whatsoever since. And that was over a year ago. But it's only defined as the county commissioner, or the highway commissioner, and then the superintendent's vehicles.
The only thing I would say to that is, if you don't have a policy, then you run into the risk of, yeah, everything works now, but at some point, policies are not necessarily a bad thing, is what I would say. Now, I don't disagree that there's probably other things we could work on, but on the same token, you're building a structure of how the county operates, and by building that structure, it doesn't matter who's running the county. Doesn't matter, that's all I would say to that, is then Josh doesn't have a question. Josh goes, well, what's this? And every time, and pretty soon you build enough policy to where, what does this say? Now, there's always gray area and everything else, but I think policy, in most cases, that's what our job is to build policy, right? I mean, that's what we're here to do. So that the people that work for the county have a clear guideline of how to operate the county. So we're not in operations, we're in policy making. So I don't, I mean, you can make policies as difficult as you want or as easy as you want. I don't disagree that a policy should probably be in place, but that's just because I work in an environment that policies are very important, so.
Anybody else with comments? Did you have an action item for us on this, Mr. Clint?
I don't have any prepared action item. It's just how you, if there's a response that you want to take, I would recommend it by action so we can capture it in the minutes and forward it back to the Rules and Strategic Planning Committee. As a group, if there's individual comments that you want to make that you want to express to that body as well, you can do that to your representative that's on that committee. But any type of formal guidance that you'd want to get, I would recommend that you put it in a form of an action on agree with it, don't disagree with it, want to make sure that it leaves availability for departmental policy and procedure, however you want to, whatever take an action you want to take on.
Understood. Gentlemen, what's their thoughts? I agree with Mr. Cooey. I mean, as our workforce is getting younger, and it seems like there's always something that happens. It's like, well, what's the policy? It has not been a problem at the highway department, other places, and it might have been just miscommunication, but Mark knows if that policy, well, I'm gonna go to the policy and here's what it is, and you did not follow it. You signed, we have that same thing. You signed the handbook that says you read the policies of this company prior to agreeing to come to work on day one, so I can go either way on it, but I would lean towards Mr. Cooey as well. Mr. Cosgrove, comment, please.
I am on the rules board, so I'm in the middle of dealing with this. I don't think this was sent to this committee or any of the other committees for any reason that the rules committee is set in stone on this. This was more for feedback, thinking outside of the parameters of this committee. You know, there's equipment at the fairgrounds that's pretty accessible to a lot of different people. So to not have a policy, we wouldn't cover those other areas that don't have an internal policy as well as you do. So I think that would be my input, that it's not to pick on any particular group. It's trying to umbrella all the places in the county where there could be something that someone could take and use. So.
Well, and just on the equipment usage, I look at it like this, and I don't know how you guys operate, Josh, but I mean, if I live on the far end of the county and that's where I plow, and it's gonna snow tonight a foot, I would want my operator to take their plow home so I know that they can plow to get to work. Otherwise, you know what I mean? Because I don't know, I think Triggs years ago, and I could be just dreaming this, but I think Triggs had the grader at home or something, you know, along that line, and maybe that's what you guys do. I don't know, but just, I would like that stuff, you know, kind of written out. So somebody says, well, why did he take the truck home? He shouldn't have took the truck home. It only snowed an inch. Well, it's supposed to snow a foot. You know what I mean? Just things like that. But
And they used to take equipment home, especially graders back in the day, because of how slow it took them to get to their routes. But now, you know, employees need to basically live within a half-hour response time to be able to get to the shop. Another thing we run into with like equipment sitting at home, why we don't allow that is because of mechanical needs too. If they break down or it's been snowing outside, they don't have it plugged in, now the truck won't start. Now we gotta send a mechanic clear out to the house to get it started, and versus keeping them in the warm building where we have them now. And then also employees, you know, we're seeing that more and more. Well, I'm using my electricity to plug that truck in, you should be giving me reimbursement for that, and so on and so forth. So we found it easier over the years just to have all the plow trucks isolated to the highway shop with 2 outlying facilities, which would be Gotham and Cazenovia, where trucks are parked there to be able to respond to those routes fast enough. But the county hasn't really been an issue of our response time to get out there thus far, so we just prefer to have the trucks isolated to the highway shop.
I think what we can do here to satisfy both areas here is we could establish policy. I mean, of all the things that you mentioned, and no matter, your policy will be flexibility.
Right, and I'm not opposed to what Mark's saying or Chad or anybody. I'm flexible, you know.
This way, no matter what happens with your situation of whether you gotta go home or whether you gotta come to work, respond to a bad road or anything you have to respond to, could be, your flexibility could be part of the policy.
And maybe, you know, something to carry forward was like, if they want to do a policy, let's work as a committee with the departments that lie underneath that committee to develop a policy. That way there's something set in stone, but yet it's flexible enough for each department to work with their committee to approve it versus one blanket that leaves too many gray areas.
And that's good feedback to take back.
I think that'd be something worth taking back. It meets all, satisfies everybody then.
Yeah, I can't see us binding you to something that's basically is unreasonable
Right.
to conduct your job.
Yeah.
So we need that in some type of, or you know what we want? Yeah, that in a motion.
I don't think you need to take any type of formal action if you don't want to. It's going to go on the record that it was discussed. So if there's a consensus one way that you want to make sure that the committee has been expressed, if you feel that it's going to work as an ordinance and there's still underlying policy, which in my opinion, it allows for some of that. Even the last language does kind of express where it's in line with county policies, where at a department level, we can still establish what practice on what that looks like. Again, it's all being chewed on right now. So they just wanted to make sure that you had a chance to also chew on it. And if there was something that you were hard set on wanting to make a recommendation on it, this is the opportunity.
If I understand the way our group kind of agreed is to state that we're okay with the policies, but we would like to have some input on the policies that are going to be affecting the departments within Public Works. Does that sound right? Everybody agrees to that? So Chad, you can understand that, or you want that in a motion in a second? Sure. Okay. I'll make that motion. And seconded by Mr. McGuire. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay? All right. We got that. What do we got left? Number 10, back to Mr. Elder.
Okay.
Are you done, Clint? Sorry.
I am. I appreciate the discussion. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You bet.
Let's see here. Okay, so this is going back to the notorious County O project. Remember me discussing behind the Ash Creek Church, we needed to purchase a piece of land for the septic. So we've talked to Stibbe's, we negotiated with them. We came to an agreement price of $8,000 for a half acre that is located in the picture here, which I have, zoom in. So this parcel of land right back here, it's not defined yet, but it's going to be right back here for the potential new site of the septic. Reason why I'm telling you this is because in December at the next county board meeting, you'll see this coming up that we'll be asking permission to write that check out. It's funds we have, we've anticipated this, we budgeted for it. So now we're going to be cutting a check and I'll need full county board's approval, giving you guys first shot at it. Again, $8,000 is kind of steep because their Stibbe's was $16,000 an acre. We weren't too happy about that, but they kind of have us backed into the corner here because we have to do the septic in order to meet federal standards to proceed forward with this. And plus there is a Wisconsin state statute. If we were to get them to accept a lesser value, they have 2 years to come forward and ask for more money. And if they come forward and ask for more money, we end up having to pay that and then all their legal fees involved with it as well. So felt easier now to put this one to bed, get it sold, satisfy all parties, and move on.
That's going to be north, Josh, of the cemetery, is that correct?
Yes, north of the cemetery, right here. If you watch my mouse go around in circles, it'd be this area right here.
And scroll over and show the other ones that don't. Septic is? Oh, the road? I'd like to know.
We past dated it prior to the 70s, so it's one of those where it was a handshake deal. So right here is where the current septic is. So when the new road is built, this road will be shifting over this way, and that septic's going to be right in the road. So we're putting the upfront costs, buying the land. We're also going to pay for the septic, but then the land and everything will be turned over to Ash Creek Church as part of the agreement. So, and we've had meetings with the whole congregation of Ash Creek Church, and they're on board with it. So.
Anybody with questions towards Josh and this land purchase? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion to approve so we can get it to full county board. We have a meeting in November? No meeting in November, so it'll be December.
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Cooey? Mr. McKee, any other discussion on this land purchase? Otherwise, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, nay. All right, forward with that. I think we're down to future agenda items. Anything anybody would like, something we're not covering? How about in December? Well, no, we're gonna have, yeah. What month are we in? How about an update from Mr. Carroll on the referendum? You okay with that?
Sure, I can do that.
All right, that'd be nice to see here. If not, anybody else have anything? Otherwise, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn until whatever I said that was. January, oh, no, well, that's our bids are due then. December something. Anybody look?
No.
Eight.
Hold on.
Chairman to have that on.
December 8th. At 4 PM. Right here, same channel, same station.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Cooey to adjourn, seconded by Cosgrove. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All right, good night. TV land.